The Vegas Vampire. I've spent my entire life living under the bright lights of the Las Vegas Strip, the real city that never sleeps. Eventually, as I became older, I was destined to work on the Strip like the other members of my family. By 21, I was dealing 21, or blackjack, for you simple bastards. I quickly became good at what I did, the best in the building as a matter of fact. The cooler behind the felt, they called me. Taking money was my business, and business was good. Sadly, I became a little too cocky one early morning and ran afoul of a gentleman from New Orleans. I took his money and let him know I took his money. I clocked out a few hours later, not thinking twice about what I had done earlier. I made it out to my car in the parking garage, and as I stuck the key into the door, I heard from the shadows to the left of me a voice. All he said was, "Hello there." I quickly turned, but as I did, he was on me, knocking me to the asphalt. He turned my neck to the side and bit into me, draining me of my blood, then leaving me to die. I woke up hours later in the hospital. I made a statement to the police, but didn't see who attacked me, so it was useless. I was treated for my wounds and later released. The man who attacked me that morning placed a curse upon my soul. I became insatiated with a thirst for blood, a ravenous hunger that would not dissipate. It wasn't like the movies. I wasn't like the newly turned, not wanting to hurt another person and just feasting on animals. I'm sorry, but F that. I attacked the first person I came across, a lovely homeless man I found resting in an alleyway. The first few kills were a little rough. I'm not a killer after all, but as the years have gone by, I've honed my craft and have become an excellent killing machine. Las Vegas truly is an excellent feeding ground. There's people out and about all through the night. Plenty of shadowy places to feed, and plenty of different kinds of people from all walks of life to feast upon. The locals are fine, but the tourists taste delicious. And oh, how easy they are to feed on. Bunch of drunk, horny bastards. Yes, while I will live forever, this life can be lonely, and is becoming lonelier by the day. Like I said, I'm cursed. This isn't a damn movie. It isn't beautiful, and it's not romantic when I'm feeding on you. And trust me, I will eat your ass. So be warned when you vacation in Las Vegas, for you might run into me, the Vegas Vampire. Tombstone. Such a cold, quiet night tonight. The moon is so pale among the trees and grass. No breeze, but a chill in the air. I sit here, perched on the tombstone, like some demonic creature. I've been sitting here every night for the past 50 years. So much time has gone by. Tonight is the anniversary, 50 years. Some say time goes by fast, yet seems so long when thinking hard about it. It seems like yesterday, but seems so long ago. Let me tell you about the night I became a vampire. My fiancée Laura and I had been dating for 6 years. We were so much in love. We had had so much fun being with each other, and we were unbreakable. We were planning our wedding. We had a date set and couldn't wait for it to come. We were so excited. One evening we got into a big argument. It was the first real fight we ever really had. We were both scared about the wedding and maybe our commitment to each other. I couldn't figure out why. All of a sudden, there was such doubt from her. She accused me of cheating on her. I told her I have not cheated on her. We both tried to calm down, but something about this argument was strange, out of control. We told each other that we do love each other, that we have a future together. Yet, she yelled at me to get out. She wanted to be alone. So I left. As I walked out, I turned to look at her, and she was crying on the couch. I continued to leave and shut the door. I walked the streets for a little bit and decided to head over to the local bar. I entered, walked up to the bar, and I ordered a beer. I sat at the far table in the corner. I wanted to stay away from the crowd. It was a Saturday night, so the place was jumping. A lot of smoke and a lot of laughing and talking among the patrons. A good atmosphere to kind of relax in. I started to have doubts now about the relationship and marriage plans. I never felt that negative about this at all. I know deep down we love each other, but my God, I feel really upset. Starting to get mad. How can she think that I cheated on her? I asked myself. This uncontrollable rage started to come over me. Not sure why, but damn. Maybe it's for the best. Maybe leaving tonight to get cooler heads will help. I do love her. I look over and notice this beautiful, completely gorgeous redhead. She was sitting alone at the corner booth. She has such a beautiful, sexy face. Nice red lips. She sat on the corner of the booth to show off herself. She has the longest legs and wearing a tight black short dress. My God, she is stunning. She looked over at me. Her eyes looked as though they were diamonds. Staring at me, she smiled and waved me over. I couldn't believe she was this forward. I thought for a second. I said to hell with it and walked over to her table, thinking to myself that if Laura thinks I cheated on her, well, maybe I will make it so. I can't think that way. I love her. I really do. But something was drawing me to this woman. I went with a pull. She stood up and shook my hand. Her hand felt so good in mine, very smooth, soft. She leaned over and gave me a hug, too. I was shocked she did that. She smelled so wonderful, like some beautiful field of roses. I fell for her that moment. We sat and talked. I told her about what happened between my fiancé and me. She said that young love can be that way. She was very flirty. She even took off her shoe and started to rub her foot up and down my leg. I was starting to get turned on. She told me she was watching me and really liked me. She asked me if I would like to go for a walk, for some fresh air, to get out of this bar for a while. I told her yes, and we got up and left. She put her arm around my waist, and we walked side by side. She leaned her head on my shoulder. She laughed at things I said. I was being playful. She's fantastic. I am really attracted to her. I asked her if she was a witch, because I told her she put a spell on me. She laughed and said, "Not quite." We got to an intersection of the buildings in an alleyway. She slid herself in front of me and pulled me into the alley. She started to kiss me deeply, passionately. I really was getting into her. I may even start having feelings for her. I stopped. I pulled away as I thought of Laura. I told her I can't. She said too late, and her eyes got deep red, and her face changed to something horrific and evil. She grabbed a hold of me and pulled me in. Her sharp teeth punctured my neck. She was draining the life out of me. As she stopped and looked down at my body, I was just laying there in the dirty alley floor. She asked me if I wanted to live. I said yes, but not knowing what she meant. At that moment, I saw nothing but darkness. I woke in a flash and was in the cemetery, laying in the grass. She was there standing over me. She told me I am now a vampire. I will be forever living this way. I will be haunting the night for eternity, but I will be alone forever. She explained that it was her that put thoughts into Laura's head that I was cheating. This vampire bitch told me she wanted me, as she has seen me many nights during my life. She wanted me for this one night. She smiled and left in a flash. I'm not sure where she went, but I was helpless for a while. I got my strength and stood up. Everything was different. Sight, smells, sounds, all different, amplified. I thought of Laura. I had to see her. I went to her home, looked at her through the window. I could not go up to her just yet. I need to know what I can do to fix what has happened to me and her. I waited 3 nights and decided to visit her. I walked to her door and knocked. She answered and was shocked to see me. She asked me where I have been, and she was looking for me everywhere. She said she was sorry for accusing me of cheating. After that night, she no longer had that feeling. I now knew why she had that feeling. I told her about being a vampire now. I told her that this will be the last time I see her. She cried out loud, "No!" She said she needs me. She loves me. She will do anything to be with me. I thought for a second and asked her if she would join me as a vampire, if she would be with me for an eternity. How romantic that will be for us. What a great story our life will be. She said yes, and I went down to bite her neck. So I sit here now, on the tombstone, in deep thought of sadness, as I do every night, blood tears running down my cheek, alone. I was way into thinking that we would be together for eternity as vampires, lovers. I was only turned 3 nights prior to that day, and instead of turning her into a vampire, she died in my arms. I didn't know how to turn her. So I sit on her tombstone all these years. I promised to be with her for eternity. It's my fate, my punishment. I sit alone on her tombstone with thoughts of her and that night. A vampire walks into a bar. I'm the type of guy who needs to have a girlfriend. You've met people like that, right? I've always been that way, even before I turned into a vampire. When you become a vampire, they only tell you one thing. You have to feed or you'll go feral. Feeding was the easy part. I got used to killing and draining after a month. What they don't tell you when you become a vampire is that eventually you'll become a square. You know, a loser, completely out of touch with the world around you. Imagine a 90-year-old dating a 30-year-old. Do you know how little they'd have in common? That's me. Only I'm 600 years old. I haven't had a girlfriend since 1492. Columbus sailed the ocean blue the last time I got laid. After 500 years of being single, I've completely given up. I'm going to walk out into the sun and burn myself to a crisp. I started my final night by going to a club because I wanted to be around people, and I sat down at the bar. I'd wait until they closed at 6 a.m. at my favorite joint in Vegas, and I'd walk out and embrace the kiss of dawn. It was a good plan, but things rarely go according to plan. After sitting at the bar for an hour, Gabrielle approached me. She was gorgeous, with beautiful dark skin and intricate braids. She asked me, over the blasting music, "Why are you sitting at the bar if you aren't having a drink?" I leaned in and responded, They don't serve blood here." She laughed. Then she put her hand on my shoulder and said, "You're funny." Something stirred in me. I hadn't felt this way in centuries. We chatted about life and love, and then we danced like nobody was watching. Before long, she invited me back to her apartment. Fortunately, there were a few hours of night left. I completely abandoned my plan and embraced the moment. As we left the club, a group of rowdy frat boys started catcalling Gabrielle. She told them all to shove off, piss boys. They responded by calling her a certain word. For the first time in decades, I completely lost my composure. I unhinged my jaw and lunged at them. I got my hands on one of them and drained his blood in seconds. The others ran screaming. I looked up over his bloodied corpse, expecting to see Gabrielle terrified, but she wasn't. "Damn," she said under her breath. "I was gonna wait until we got back to my apartment to do this." She wasn't screaming, and she wasn't running. Maybe I'd finally found true love. I felt pure joy for the first time in centuries. Gabrielle pulled a stake out from her purse. "I had you pegged from across the bar, you bloodsucker." She plunged it into my heart, and I disintegrated into hot ash. I regret turning an Instagram TikTok influencer into a vampire. I regret turning an Instagram influencer into a vampire, and I guess she dazzled me with her pictures and videos. It's the way she earned a living, through every aspect of social media, and I just had to get her into my clan. I saw her walking alone, but taking pictures of herself one night. And she was afraid of me at first, but I reassured her that I was not going to hurt her. You see, I ask people's permission whether or not they want to be vampires, and I don't just take them. She told me that she had to think about it, and after a couple of days, she was so excited to become a vampire. I didn't turn her straight away, and I gave her a couple of months to get her humanly affairs in order, and she was all over social media, like Instagram and TikTok, promising her followers that she has a surprise for them. I was so happy for her, and I couldn't wait to have her into my clan. She was amazing, and I envisioned her to be a great vampire who would one day become very respected and feared by every vampire in the world. Turning someone into a vampire is no small business, and it is a big responsibility. It's similar to bringing a baby into the world. When I turned her, there was a bit of a struggle, but she calmed into it, and then she drank my blood. Before you know it, she was floating through the air, and she grasped her vampiric powers very easily. She kept asking us to take pictures of her when she was flying through the air, or when she used her mind powers on humans. I took the pictures awkwardly, and when she looked at them, she shouted at me for not taking the pictures. I did take the picture, but vampires don't have reflections, I told her, and everything became awkward. I realized that she hadn't thought through everything. She started having a panic attack, and she blurted, "What about my Instagram, TikTok, and followers? I make my living through pictures and videos." And tears of blood started rolling down her eyes. She has become so depressed, and she started suffering withdrawal symptoms from lack of social media. She isn't drinking blood, and she keeps trying to go into the sunlight. What a great disappointment. The last vampire in the world. The last vampire in the world sat quietly in her bedroom. She would have sobbed from loneliness if vampires felt loneliness. She would have grieved if vampires could possibly feel such a thing as grief in their cold, cold hearts. Grieved at the loss of all that she had once loved in the now dead, scorched, empty earth. No more dark forests filled with chill mists. No more night skies over sleeping cities to fly through in search of sustenance. No more humanity at all. But she did still feel one thing. She felt hunger, sharp as shattered crystal, cruel as claws. Hunger was now her only and constant feeling. She looked down at the wreck of her wrists, where she had tried sucking her own blood, till they were full of ragged punctures. She was too weak now to tear at her own skin, to release blood, as she had done at first. She could only slurp feebly at the self-inflicted bites on her upper arms. But even so, her blood was flowing terribly slowly and tasting bitter. She would have gone out to the sun, the hated, despised sun, to end it all, if the sun had been able to shine through the heavy ashen clouds that now covered the sky. Not even an ash tree left to impale herself on. So the last vampire in the world did the only thing she could think of to end her misery, hoping that the one thing she truly, absolutely feared was still in existence and would grant her the mercy of death. She prayed. The last vampire. We woke up one morning to find that we could no longer drink. It was literally as simple as that. After thousands of years of evolution, suddenly humanity was no longer able to survive on any of the liquids that had previously sustained us. For those who dared to attempt, it was like drinking battery acid. It was a mess. It was a waste. Scientists worked themselves into a frenzy, desperately trying to find the reason why water suddenly was unable to be consumed by humans. This research dominated them for the first day. Animals had no ill effects, and showers and rainwater were fine to touch, just not to drink. The next day, the research went further. Volunteers were asked to try different concoctions of existing liquids, from everything to apple juice to seawater, just to see if there was something that could help us out, at least for a moment. At the morning of the third day, with humanity at its peak of desperation, and after a terrified scientist bit his co-worker, the discovery was made. Blood was fine. Human blood would keep you alive with no negative side effects whatsoever. Specifically human, though. You couldn't cheat with that animal blood nonsense. The hospitals were overwhelmed as blood bags were immediately emptied, mostly by the hospital staff, who insisted that they needed it. Blood banks were broken into. Those were the people I think were perhaps the most decent of us. I'm ashamed to say, at that point of desperation, after nearly 3 full days without a single drop of water, a lot of people reacted with violence. There is no telling how many people died that first day, as they were drained solely for that oh so human desire to remain alive. What they didn't expect was that human blood tasted amazing. The government tried to help, to try to keep order. Mandatory blood donations were ordered for every human being on the planet. The promise was that humanity would keep itself going through ongoing sacrifice and support until we figured out how to reverse this problem. But what really happened was people grew impatient. A pint a day was never going to be enough when it was so damn addictive. Prisoners and lawbreakers were offered to service the rest of humanity, and the homeless population found themselves vanishing overnight. But it didn't stop there. It's amazing how fast humanity can act when they all have the same need. Soon society had all but broken down as humanity would travel together in smaller and smaller groups, solely to find other humans to drain. It was a battle for survival, a battle where people were constantly in need for that next fix, where nobody could be trusted. We fought and consumed our way down, further and further, until here I am. Through sheer luck, as far as I know, I'm the last. Funny how things can change in 3 months. Aaron, the vampire hunter. Garlic doesn't affect them, or holy relics. Water only gets them wet, and they prefer their steaks rare. Very, very rare. No, the one thing that really gets a vampire is cold, hard steel, like that of a sleek, lightweight katana or an ancient medieval sword. It's not enough to just slash or stab a vamp to kill it. Their heads must be severed completely from their bodies. Then heads and bodies must be burned until all that is left is ash. Aaron knew this. He was a quick and efficient killer. Dispatching the heads of vampires was quite easy. The trick was carefully throwing their still biting heads into the flaming pit, as well as tackling their upright, headless walking bodies and hurling them in too. It took Aaron a few hours to complete the task, but it was done. 3 of the last 4 vamps on the planet now lay in his burning pit. He smiled at his accomplishment and said to himself, "Now, there is no more competition left." I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.